Welcome back, everyone. That's right. I'm back from holiday. Luke, as I saw back from carrying both of us the last few weeks with the posts and holidays ended the deal up. So I'm back bringing the energy and the videos and podcasts are back as well. So looking forward this week. Some good battles, really. The Anzac round as well. Special shout out to that. Always good that rugby league can contribute in a small way to what others before us have done for both countries. It's good to have both sides of the Anzacs here in these videos. So it'll be a special one. And straight into it with South and Penrith. So a battle and a half. Obviously, the 2021 grand final battle. South really sort of they versed each other round one this year, and I don't feel like South did too much, but they were sort of there right at the end. So they hung with Penrith. Penrith sort of dominated that game and were in control for a lot of it. So interesting to see what happens this time around. And as we normally do, we pick a battle each. And I've got this week's game, and I've gone for the fullback super coach battle. So I felt this is a good one because they're completely different fullbacks. You got Edwards, who is in everything all the time, and he's just a hard worker. He's not going to do your flashy Latrell stuff, but then Latrell is your flashiness. It's in Supercoach terms, he'll sort of be asleep for some games, and then all he needs is 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and he just absolutely smashes the points out. And he's gone from 20 points after 60 minutes up to 115 after full time. So they can both hold some points, and they've both done that this year. We've seen a couple of weeks ago, Edwards got I think it's 3 or 4 tries. So he did like a 150 odd. Really looking forward to the game as well. I think being at, I'll still call it a Telstra Stadium, Olympic Stadium, but whatever it wants to be called these days, it's a bigger, it sort of plays in the South hands a little bit now, but a few of the big boys out hurts them. So for the battle, I'll choose Edwards actually as a bit of an upset. I think Penrith are doing enough to really grind South down and really frustrate him, which I think will limit him and also Cody's involvement in the game. Luke?
Yeah, and it's good to have you back too, mate. But yeah, I'm overall going to go with Edwards too. Edwards is just impressing me. He's someone that I think will forever be underrated for a sense, and I think now it's validated more than ever, just because he's always just going to find it hard to break into that New South Wales Blues squad. Because once Teddy's gone, it'll be Latrell or Turbo, and you just got heaps of contention. Then you got to throw Pappy into the frame as well. But Edwards I think he's going to project himself probably to be the form fullback of the season. I'm actually going to release a post, just give myself a plug of my form team of the quarterway mark so far. And I'm also going to be projecting who I believe is going to end the season that. And at this stage, I've got Dylan Edwards marked as my fullback that's going to end there. And it's just his effort areas are just fantastic. And I think Edwards is staking a claim to now to be a big game player as well. They've got a ridiculous record with Dylan Edwards in the team, and you definitely notice when he's not there. And it's nothing against Latrell, but yeah, Edwards' biggest compliments are sometimes Latrell's biggest faults, and it's that getting involved in stuff, and especially when I believe Penrith are winning other areas as well. He really needs to get himself involved. And look, I think Edwards just is kind of, I think I should say the field's there for him to get this battle. There's a few things working for him and a few things working against Latrell. But yeah, I think Dylan Edwards is, just want to kind of press that point again, is really stepping up as a big game player. And I believe this is one of the bigger, more big, that's great grammar. One of the bigger games you can get in a regular season matchup anyway, obviously with their history and just being one of the two of the probably 4 to 5 premier teams in this competition. So yeah, I'll go with Dylan Edwards here.
This is why we do these, guys, and great minds think alike, because I'm about to release the same sort of content about the quarter of the way mark. So we'll see how close we are. I feel like that'll be pretty good actually. But second game up, we got Darwin clash. The Eels take a home game up to Darwin, although a few fans are a bit scratching their heads with this one, but it is what it is. You've got a pretty big battle to look ahead for this one.
Yeah, so I've gone with the front row here, and the most post contact meters from the front row pairing. But just before I get into that, I just want to kind of focus on these two teams. They're kind of opposites in the sense that I'm a bit unsure where these two teams are at. Is there probably the thing that's actually similar, but one is more at the top end of the ladder. One's kind of, I think the Eels have now, well, they've got 3 wins now, so they're kind of in that middle pack, but look, I don't think they're far off each other, and the odds for this game, I believe, are about 170 for the Bronx and $2 for the Eels, where I'm actually picking the Eels to win this game, and I'll go into a bit why now, but I've gone for most post-contact meters from a prop parent. I've been waiting to use this one, and I believe this is the one to use it. You've got origin props on either side in all these 4 ones, and I just think this is going to be so key, getting that quick play to ball, getting the momentum for their X factors to work with. Obviously, Moses on one side and Dylan Brown, and along the other side, you got the likes of Reece Walsh and Ezra Mam as well. So I think for me, why I've focused on post-contact meters rather than meters is, yeah, you can get through a truckload of work, but are you going to be getting that ball with the defense going backwards? And I believe these guys are going to play a huge role in that. So I'm really interested to see how Regan Campbell-Gillard especially rolls off his week. He's had a tremendous season, but obviously last week he was creating a lot of headlines. And then you go to the other side, and Payne Haas was arguably one of the best players of the round as well, and probably the player of the season so far when you look at consistency too. So I'm really interested. Also, Thomas Flegler's coming back as well. Junior Paulo's not having a bad season, but I think I believe Payne Haas been a standout one from the New South Wales side of things, and also his teammate Regan Campbell-Gillard there been a standout as well. His work's gone a little bit underappreciated. So yeah, I reckon the Eels are going to win this one, and I think I want to go back to my first point. I'm going to prove that their form guide isn't really telling the full story. I think, and also being at home, isn't it? At
Darwin,
yeah.
No, it's at Darwin.
Oh, that's right. You said in Darwin. So yeah, that true. That throws a spanner. I am going to back my gut though. Yeah, like you said, the point you did bring up. Yeah, that's a funny one. That is a funny one. That really throws a spanner work. I'll go with the Eels. And I think it's going to be Regan Campbell-Gillard and Junior Paulo proving the point here, winning the game and also winning the stat war as well.
It's a hard one, not just for fans, but this is a hard one to pick in neutral terms as well, because when I try and sit back and think of it as a non-para fan, it's, you go, look, Eels, Broncos, you first of all think Eels at home, then you go, no, wait, it's at Darwin, so they're not really at home. Oh, that's closer to Brisbane. Brisbane have probably done some more heat sessions than para have. Then you sort of think about the whole, well, the Eels will they all want to prove a point because they've had a tough start to the year where they didn't win too many against those top 8 sort of teams. This is their first chance since they've had a couple of wins to show that they're improving and know what to do. Then you sort of think they've got the short turnaround. No, it's only a 5-day turnaround. You don't want to do that going up to Darwin as well, where they left yesterday. They haven't really had much training. But then you think, and remember watching on Sunday, where I feel like in the second half especially, the break was put on the side quite a bit, and Brad Arthur sort of took a few players off early, and it was as if they had an eye towards Friday night. So in a way, it sort of looks like they're readying themselves for this battle. At the same time, you sort of see the Broncos and how they were able to just turn on a switch against the Titans, really. I know that the sin bin, which probably shouldn't have happened, and we might get to that a bit later, but had a big bearing on that match. And they're such a team at the moment, the Broncos. Once you give them that little bit of momentum, they'll just take that. Reece Walsh takes it. The rest of them go off the back of him, and it's a very hard team to sort of peg back once they've got that. Once they've got the momentum, they're gone. Yeah, good luck keeping that off them. So it's a tough one. I still don't know who to tip, so I don't know. I can't really give my tip today at the moment because I'm just tossing it up. But in terms of this post-contact meters, I think the Broncos might get it just because of Payne Haas. He's been so good this year, and that's his bread and butter, that post-contact meters, where if it was just meters, I'd probably go for Reg, and I'd go Paulo. But that post-contact meters is what, as I said, Payne Haas is so good at. So I feel like, I need some points here. I'm still behind by about 3 or 4, so I need to keep getting some back. The next one, Dogs versus Sharks, which when I've got this one and I looked at it, and it's sort of, the Dogs at the moment are getting into the Tigers territory where you don't really want them when we're doing these, because they're getting hard to pick, and the Dogs are sort of depleted. They're not playing great footy at the moment, so you're sort of picking at a bit of straws. But then I thought about the halves, and I like to sort of do the halves pairing as such, but I decided to take the halves away and just focus on the sevens, because this week Burton's been moved to 7, and he's not your natural 7, I don't think, by any means. I think Hines, I've always sort of said I didn't feel like he was a natural 7, but man, he's playing so well in that role. He's sort of making me look a bit like an idiot at the moment, but I feel like it's 2 running 7s who their strongest point in their game is actually running the football, not planning, not organising, none of that. So I've decided to do the most running meters for the Battle of the Sevens. So between Burton and Hines, and just off the back of how Hines has been, I'll just keep it short and simple for you. I just think Hines will absolutely demolish the Dogs here. If you got him on Supercoach, he is a captaincy special this week. I don't know if you can do anyone else, but yeah, Hines for mine.
Yeah, no, like I'm gonna bounce off you there with Hines too. I think someone did make a comment in the commentary team. It's like he's got spiders on him, and I really see that as well, because it's like one of those things with Hines. It's like he's not the quickest. He doesn't have the best footwork in the world. It's not like he's the craftiest, but he breaks through tackles. He just got this instinct to the game. It's just, he backs himself. And you look at Burden, you think of the best Burden like moments is when he is running the ball. And obviously that's why he is also able to play centre, able to play fullback as well. So, but Hines just makes it work. It's kind of, and going back to that Spiders thing, I remember when Thurston scored that try, or set up a try, and he was mic'd up, and he made that comment. It was like, "It's spiders on me," and he was the same. All he was doing was just natural movement, dummy, 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 and it was like, how are they falling for this? And it's just that natural feel. And Hines is in some blistering form. It was a shame that he missed the start of the season, because I would have really, like, he ended up being my Dally M pick, and I've still implemented that kind of pick as well, like, just because I don't want to back it. But obviously missing the start of season's hurt too. But yeah, Hines is special. He's playing with some form at the moment, and this is interesting because I know LOI's there, but this could be the potential battle to see who gets that number 6 spot as well. And obviously they're playing as halfbacks too. But I thought you made up a real good point too in your latest post, mate, about Hines's case for New South Wales. I believe it was your post about how, like, if Cleary's not having a good game, then it's up to LOI, and he hasn't really fit that bill yet, where Hines what we've seen at club level, he seems more capable of LOI, because I was, like you said, like, LOI kind of sometimes gets, the tick of approval just because, he's been in successful teams, he's been with Cleary, and it's hard to change something that's been working at clubland. But at the end of the day, it hasn't worked at New South Wales every time. So, I'm leaning towards, you've convinced me, man. I just thought I'd get it out there. Hines is going to be our number 6 pick at the moment. So, I'm just really impressed by Hines. And, and sadly for Burton, just touch on Burton, you are right. Like, the Dogs, it's easy to pick Burton each week because they've just been a bit decimated at the moment. But, I'm going to go Hines here. I think it's another probably, what's to say, was hope he makes me look good and he gets another 6 points in Dally M's this week.
It's a bit early yet, but what I feel like we might do in the next few weeks, we'll talk about this, is do an Origin special sort of video. And there's a fair few talking points already. We won't try and talk too much about it today, but there's definitely, I think, enough talking points already to have a bit of a video with that. So we might look that down the track. The next game, and you've got this one, Knights versus Cowboys, and seriously, the Cowboys just need to win. They need to win some footy matches, and they need to start they're glad that it's got a team called the West Tigers in this competition at the moment. Otherwise, there would be a lot more talk about the Cowboys. So, what do you got for this one? What are you going to do that hopefully can get the Cows back into it?
Yeah, I'll be tipping the Cows every week until they win, I think. But I've focused on the back three here in terms of my stat wars here because I want to kind of go back to the Knights side. Their back three really intrigues me. I want to talk on the negatives first for the back three, just because I want to talk. So I want to more highlight them, but I just thought I'd touch on this. Lockie Miller has had a couple of shacked in the fall moments for NBA reference, and also a couple of bloopers. The best way to sum it up with Olakau'atu, obviously, kind of making a bit like a fool when he was on the goal line. He had the commentator's curse as well last week against the Panthers. When I think it was, I can't remember who was on the call, but they were talking him up, and he drops it straight away. Dom Young obviously had that shocker a couple of weeks back and got dropped, and then Marshall. Look, there's been a few reasons why he hasn't been able to be there in first grade for a sustained amount of time. And he's shown some defensive deficiencies too. That is everyone is aware of, and same with Young as well. And Lockie Miller is learning the game, still being a rugby convert. But let's get that out of the way. They have been tremendous when they've had ball in hand. The amount of work they get through, they're explosive. They are really why I have pinpointed here. They get this seats going. They are one of those free players that when you do have on the front foot as well, they're hard to stop. They're just, especially Marshall. Oh, honestly, he's one of the hardest players to tackle in the comp. It looks like he's just built a bit awkward. Yeah, and you've got to give credit to Dom Young. We touched on the shocker before to bounce back from that. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they can also, outscore the Cows back three, because Scotty Drinkwater is really the key for the Cowboys. We said how I believe he's probably the most valuable player, but he didn't really make much of a difference last week. Obviously, it wasn't enough to get them over the hoops, but when they're rolling, he's the one setting up tries. He's the one creating attack, and felt and Tuolangi, the try score machines, but they can also help get started as well. Look, I'm going to tip the Cows to win because I just got this blind faith at the moment. But I'm going to pick the Supercoach points for the Knights here. I think you're just going to see their back three are more informed than the Cowboys back three. I'm hoping the Cowboys win some other areas, but man, I think this might be another big win for the Knights here, especially if they win this battle. But yeah, how about yourself, mate? I'm losing faith in the Cows a little bit. Well, I think it's I'm losing it. I'm borderline want to say I've lost faith in the Cows, but if they can turn it around here, that's gonna help me kind of regain a little bit of faith.
And we'll try not to get too bogged down. We haven't done these for a few weeks, so we'll try and talk a little bit of footy as well. But I'm like you. I've been stung by the Cowboys now a few weeks in a row by tipping them and thinking it's going to happen, it's going to change, and it still hasn't. I mean, they had, I think, 50 odd tackles in the Warriors 20-meter line last week, and only managed two tries all up. So the Cowboys are just not there. It's as if, and I keep thinking, I've thought about the Cowboys all week because they're just doing my head in, and I've just felt like the Cowboys we're seeing this year is the Cowboys that most of us thought we were going to see last year when we had them all in the bottom four. They were going to struggle, things like that. It's as if we're now finally seeing that. But this year, we all thought they were going to be in the top four. So they're a team that's doing my head in. I just cannot get a read on them any year at the moment. I feel like the last 3 years I've had them on one side of the table and they've done the opposite. So I'm just done with them. I'm done with them. And this thing, I'm going the Knights because of it. I feel like the off season, because last year they're all talking about how good their off season was. The off season has really impacted the Cowboys probably the most out of any team. They had quite a few players in the World Cup, a lot of key players in the World Cup. I just don't think they've come back and handled the short turnaround into this season well at all. So, and now we're getting into Origin, we're getting into that busy period where it's just going to ramp up even more. They're not going to have much of a chance yet. And at the moment, they're going to get themselves in a situation where they need to win footy matches. they're not going to be able to rest players. They've got to be winning matches. And unfortunately, the Cowboys for mine are looking, if they lose one or two more, they could be realistically in a battle for the bottom four for in the end of the year with some big name players just not stepping up at all. But the Supercoach battle, I'll lock in the Knights back three. They've been so good, and I think I've got Marjo in my team at the moment, Supercoach wise, but every week I want to try and get in Miller, and I just can never find a way to get him in. There's other priorities, but it's killing me not having him, and I've been really impressed with
I had it
Miller.
from the start of my fantasy, so
Oh, it's killing me. I can't get him in either, and it's just doing my head in. But yeah, Miller has really impressed me, so shout out to him as well. The Battle of the Queensland teams, probably the two little cousins at the moment, the Dolphins and the Titans. You got the Broncos obviously leading that pack at the moment, and I've gone the battle of the back row. I've looked at the both lineups, and I feel like Kafusi and Lemuelu versus Fafita and Stimson are battles that are probably quite even. Both have sort of one strike player and one has like a player that will just go ahead and do your stock standard defense and protect the half, things like that. So I feel like the most running meters is where I'm focusing on. And as I said, with that explosion player, both can probably rack up some bits. So it'll be up to that, I reckon, that second player, so Lemuelu and Stimson, to really back up the other player. In terms of the game, I think the Titans for mine looked pretty good or in that first probably 50 minutes of last week. And we touched on that sin bin, which shouldn't have been a sin bin. For mine, he got him for not being square the first one, which he was the player that was square. Fodawaker wasn't square. And then it was a pretty soft penalty to get sent in the sin bin for as well. So I don't know what you can take out of that last bit from the Titans. They're a team where when they do get something like that go against them, they just drop their heads and they can't come back from it. The Dolphins will play that all game. We've seen that already. And just because of that, and I feel like I know the Dolphins have a couple out at the moment, but just the way that they'll get in the battle with them, I'll go the Dolphins to win, and I'll go the Dolphins pairing for the battle of the back row here. I'll put them in.
yeah, nice. Yeah, it's an interesting one, man. The Dolphins. So the Titans game last week, I only caught like short glimpses of it. I went back and watched the highlights, but yeah, I remember watching it quite quickly and thinking that Simbin. I was like, that's an odd one. We saw quite a few little cards over the weekend as well, and but yeah. So how do you say it's Lima? Oh God, I've butchered this.
Lemuelu.
Yeah, I think he is a good little find for the Dolphins. Yeah, I really like him. He's got something about him. He was someone that come into the Cows last year, and I thought, man, he might be able to snatch a spot here into their finals run. Didn't quite work out like that because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And that was something that now the Cows kind of need someone like him, especially with their injuries and their form in general, which we just touched on. But look, I'm ultimately going to Titans to win this match here. I think we had a very high assessment of the Titans coming into the season. I had them ninth and you had them in the top 8. And I honestly think even though maybe that might catch people off guard still now, I think they're still playing kind of to how I expected, especially when you consider too with Brinson and Fawn being in and out of the lineup as well. But it's good to see Fafita actually enjoying his footy, and you can kind of tell that he's playing good, but there's a happiness factor as well there. Because I got the Titans winning that, ultimately I think Fafita is going to have to have a huge role. It is whether Stimson can carry a bit of role here, but sometimes Kafusi, even though Kafusi's value is fantastic, it comes up in those areas that don't really pop off the stat sheet as well. So look, I'm going to go for Fafita and Stimson here to win this battle. I'm expecting kind of Fafita to be your main man along with Tino as well. Obviously he's going to, like you mentioned before, but that's Simbin. He's got a point to prove. I am interested to see how this one goes. It's a tough one because I've just become like, Dolphins become like my second or third favorite team now.
Yeah,
you just want
too.
to see. So it's one of those things I want to take the Dolphins every week, but now I'm just going to go with that feeling that Fafita is going to continue his form here, and he's going to probably be the difference factor, especially now that we touched on Origin, not playing Origin last year, and there's a couple spots up for grab. Nanai hasn't been playing, well, he hasn't been playing generally, and when he has played, he hasn't really, grabbed many headlines. You've got Capewell that hasn't really done too much either, even though he has been in a winning team. But yeah, I'm going to go after Titans winning this battle for most running meters from the back row. Versus hope Stimson can carry a little bit of weight there. But yeah, I'm backing for Feeder to be the main benefit there.
Yeah, Feeder starting to come into a bit of form. Look, we've got the next game, and well, I said at the start of this video that the Tigers are the team when we do these in random order, guys. So it's 1-2, 1-2, 1-2 each time, and you just alternate who gets the first game and things like that. And we've got the Tigers is the team that you don't want to land on, and Luke has got it this week. And to show how hard it is to find battles where the Tigers are actually involved with it, Luke, you've had to choose two players against one. Can you please say what your battle is, please?
So I've got the more super coach points. Turbo, or I believe his name is Buller.
Yeah, we'll lock him Buller.
Yeah, and Dane Laurie. So yeah, you summed it pretty up. You summed it up pretty well, Joel. Look, honestly, the Titans, the Tigers, so it's tough going. It really is. Look, Dane, first of all, this is going to be their fourth fullback of the season.
Yeah.
And it's week 8.
And I think it's their 6th change in the spine or something for 7 games. It's just nuts.
Yeah, let that sink in. Anyway, I'm interested just to see why I focus on this is Turbo's a freak. So Turbo's going to win this matchup against Buller, I believe. But putting Laurie into it, I thought, look, I want to see how Buller goes. Maybe he ends up being a long-term fullback for the next 3 weeks or the whole season. But for me, also I'm interested to see how they implement Laurie off the bench as well. So it's really picking first of all, is Turbo just going to, Manly Seagulls going to be too good and Turbo's going to put on a show? Or is it going to be a tighter game than we think? We've got to remember Tigers' last game wasn't too shabby. It wasn't too bad. But once again, you're dealing with new combinations. Some of that is, it's been forced because of the injury to Dewey, and all the best to Dewey and recovering from his injury. And actually, from the last time we've actually spoke, man, there's been some devastating injuries that have really impacted some certain teams. But yeah, I'm really interested to see how Aloy is implemented and just see how Bullet takes the first grade as well. Will it be enough? I believe no. I think Turbo is still going to get the points here. Also, won't be surprised if Dane Lloyd just doesn't get on the park. Like I don't think that will happen. But if it doesn't happen, it wouldn't surprise me either. Like I just don't think the idea of Dane Lloyd as a 14 is actually really cool. If you can afford to do it, like I believe he was spend a bit of utility when he was at the Panthers, but that's the Panthers. This is the 17th place winless Tigers. So yeah, ultimately I don't have faith in how he's going to be utilized, and I don't have faith in them outplaying the Sea Eagles. So yeah, I've got the Sea Eagles winning this matchup with most super coach points going to Tommy Turbo.
Yeah, I've got a lot to say on the Tigers. I don't want to say too much right now. They're all over the shop still. The interesting thing about Laurie, and I heard this on the radio, so I'm not going to take credit for this, but interestingly, through the Panthers' time, a lot of that time was spent in lower grades at 5'8". He played a lot of time in the halves, and I feel like with Dewey down, and I thought it was looking as if they wanted to make the Ferrari that came over from Penrith, their fullback, Charlie Staines. So it was looking like they wanted Charlie Staines as their fullback. And now they had that for a week or two. As you said, for the Para game, it started to look like they were finding a few players that were working where they were. I felt like it was a game to try and just put Laurie at 5'8", and let's see how he goes this weekend. But they're going back to the old trusty, the reserve grader from the Dogs that they pinched last minute and has done nothing. No offense, but I'm just going to lock in Turbo. I'll be quick here, and Turbo's just going to. You could add 3 more players to that, and I reckon Turbo will outscore him. So, Turbo, if it wasn't for Hines playing the Dogs this weekend, you'd be putting the C on Turbo. But yeah, we're living in a world where there's Hines at the moment, and it's his world we're living in.
Yeah.
Roosters versus the Dragons, my last one, Anzac Day clash, the first one. Really looking forward to this one. Can't wait for it. Center of attention I've done. Bit interesting. There's a lot of big pairings for this matchup, but I just feel like Tuoliti and Momorowski is coming in. Obviously, the move from Manu to 5'8" for the Roosters, a shock to a lot of us. Versus Suoliti and Lomax, I feel like for both clubs, when they're really on, a lot of their tries, a lot of their attack is through that center sort of avenue. And whenever they've got their good wins, both teams, it's through both of these players. And especially on the Dragons front, if they're to win this and do some damage, it needs to be Lomax and Sully really firing. They've both got huge potential. We haven't seen it much this year. Is it the Anzac game that will bring it out of them? But I've got most tries by the centre pairing, purely off the fact I don't think Momorowski will contribute to this one, purely for the fact that Suoliti is there, and with Origin getting closer, with Adokar a 50-50 chance of being in it, I think Suoliti will go to another level, and I feel like him by himself will outscore both Sully and Lomax, and I'll lock in the Roosters pairing.
Yeah, no, I'm going to bounce off you there too with that one. I'm going to just comment about Suolihi. I believe against the Sharks, he was one of their brighter spots. And the stat sheet might not reflect. I didn't really go back too much, but I just thought he's finding his feet now. In that centre spot, especially, he's starting to really look like he. I don't think he ever looked outsized, like because he always kind of physically had the gifts, but I thought like he kind of had that lean to build. I really noticed in that game, like he was getting on the front foot, like even though he wasn't necessarily breaking tackles at will, it was just kind of every defender was like, oh, jeepers, good thing I hung on there type situation. Momorowski doesn't really fit into this, but I do believe he's going to be a benefit of some really good work, especially from Joe Manu going to 6, which is yeah, he's going to 6. I believe Kerry will be shifting to 7. That's interesting. I don't know if that's a long-term thing. We did actually touch on that at the start of the year about, Manu. Actually, we thought that there would be a very good chance he did it, but we thought maybe it was injury because we know Walker and Kerry's history. And yeah, but we know Walker kind of in his rookie season had weeks off, even when he wasn't really injured as such. But yeah, it's just something to notice. So yeah, I think Momorowski going to be benefit. Like you said, Sue and Lomax, they haven't really jumped out of the gate this season. They, like you said, they are so key for the Dragons firing. They're their X factors. You bring up a good point. Anzac Day would be something to inspire you to do that. But I'm going to go to Roosters here, and I think Suolihi is going to have one of those games where we start. And also, I know it's in a different position, but there's a bit of hype now going around about that wing spot. Fox does reckon he could potentially be back, but I believe that's going to play a huge role as well. And I think he's getting a lot of chatter that he's not going to get picked, but I think, yeah, he'll use that as motivation. So, yeah, locking the Roosters for me with that one as well.
Last one, your team, you got the last clash Anzac round, the typical Storm versus Warriors clash at Amy Park. What do you got here?
Well, this is kind of a precursor to a bit of a run I'm going to get on. So, Storm vs Warriors, highest completion rate here. So, I'm going for a full team one. I'll touch on the Warriors first. I think they've just been clinical. They've been awesome. Obviously, Sean Johnson's getting a lot of credit, but I just think the coach, the whole team needs to. Even when the Warriors weren't going through some good patches either, they had some crazy stats where I remember against the Dragons a couple of years back, they broke the record for most completed sets. I don't think they might have dropped the ball once. And it kind of goes against that narrative of the old Warriors too, that, razzle dazzle, throwing the ball at the gate. The Warriors we used to love, but hey, they've kind of found, and not that they haven't been chucking the ball around, but they've found a style that's been working for them, and their culture is just, yeah, it's been awesome to see develop. And they'll go after Storm. Like, we didn't talk a couple of weeks back about their performance against the Roosters, and also A little glimpses in the Tigers game as well. But that Storm game against the Roosters, I was like, okay, I felt good about that game. Like there was just something about it, just reminded me of the old Storm with losing some troops as well. But man, we shoot ourselves in our foot sometimes. Just some silly errors. Um, just sometimes we just try to push it, and when we don't have the momentum. And that's our key players too, Munster. Love him. We know how great he is, but man, he can do some boneheaded plays. And also Nelson coming back. Look, I love Nelson. I think he's the biggest X factor in the whole competition. No one has a Nelson that's off the solo. Nelson that's off the solo. He is unreplaceable, but he is good for an era too. So I'm really interested to see how they go against the Warriors team that is, in terms of any team in the comp, they are playing above themselves and anyone else. We have to be really on here. I believe it's going to be a really tight game. I'm going to pick us to win, but I think the Warriors are going to be playing smarter at times. So I think they're going to win this battle, but they're going to make it a bit closer than expected here. Yeah, I think it's going to be one of the better Anzac games we've seen in a long time out of these two. I think there's been a couple blowouts lately. There has been some classic Anzac games. It's the one regular season game I want to go to, obviously as a Storm fan. So yeah, I'm just hoping that we, losing this battle doesn't cost us enough, but I just don't have faith. But yeah, I just want to express that I was really impressed with that Roosters performance. That was at home too. So I'm expecting hopefully a similar performance there.
I'm just then while you're talking in my head, I'm tossing and turning this whole time about who's going to win this battle, because for me it's really close, because the Storm, after what happened last week, Bellamy will have them right up for this one. The Warriors been playing so well this year. They're my absolute shining light of the comp so far. I think they're just a surprise packet. I thought most people would have probably maybe had them 1 or 2 wins so far, would have been a pass and gone, yeah, that's all right for them, whatever. I feel like the Storm will win this one, and I feel like the Storm will win this stat war as well. I look in the Storm purely off the fact that even though the Warriors have been good this year, they haven't had to go and play in a game like they're about to go and play against the Storm for this one. So it's going to be really hard for them to match them. Look, we all know the lights go off. It's a massive atmosphere. It's spine tingling, and it'll be interesting to see what the players for the Warriors, how they react to this, where I feel like a lot of the Storm players have been there and done that for this one before. They're going to be seeing red, and I just feel like for the Storm now, they'd like to get into a run before Origin hits, because they lose a few. This is their chance to do it. So I lock in the Storm to get this right, and to do it well. So, look,
You're right, mate. I hope you're right.
we have timed this pretty much perfectly. We've got through it. We had a bit of footy to talk at the same time, but we're consistent again. So easier videos coming up, and enjoy, guys. Enjoy your footy. We'll obviously be back next, probably Wednesday, because this is a later round as well. Finishing up on Tuesday. We'll see you then, guys. Enjoy.
Awesome. Cheers, team.